Shabbat Shalom. This morning I want to talk about the world's most powerful animal. And when I mention this, people usually think about a lion, or maybe an elephant, or a tiger, or a whale. But no, the world's most powerful animal is one that you wouldn't suspect. It's only 6 inches long, and it's called the peacock mantis shrimp. The mantis shrimp looks otherworldly in appearance, but it doesn't really look threatening. It has 5 pairs of legs for feeding, 3 pairs of legs for walking, 10 sets of gills for breathing, and 2 eye stalks for its compound eyes. Now, this might just sound like a typical description for a regular crustacean, but it's what is at the front of this critter that packs a punch. Literally, the mantis shrimp is equipped with 2 club-shaped limbs at the front that look similar to the arms of a praying mantis, hence the name. And 18 million years of evolution have enabled this shrimp to move these arms so quickly and with such force that it is impossible for us to see this movements with our human eyes. In fact, when the mantis shrimp punches something, it does so with the velocity of a .22 caliber bullet being fired. The motion of its arm movements are so intense that when it strikes, the water surrounding its front appendages momentarily heats up to the temperature similar to the surface of the sun. This little shrimp is pure brute force, but you wouldn't know it because it's so small. And that is how it can take down prey much larger than itself, easily breaking the bones of bigger fish or the outer shells of larger crabs. This little critter is a force to be reckoned with. Now, I've told you all several times now that when I was in college, I worked at a pet store. And in the early 2000s, for some reason I still don't understand, many fish tank hobbyists began to keep mantis shrimps as pets. Why you would want a pet that could hurt you, I don't know. Our store was smart enough not to sell them to the general public, but the manager that I worked with, Elliot, he had acquired one from a specialty fish store, and he put it in his aquarium at home, and he affectionately named his mantis shrimp Frank. After Shabbat, I encourage you, find a video of a mantis shrimp punching and eating. It's really cool to watch. They'll slow it down so you can actually see. It's amazing to see. And because of that, it became the hobby of all the fish nerds in our store to go to Elliot's house after work and watch Frank pummel the poor crab and eat it. Like I said, the motion is so fast, but you can't even see it, but you can hear its hammer arms just knocking apart the shell. Pow, pow, pow. We used to take turns feeding Frank. You would get a pair of tongs, and you'd grab a small crab, and you'd stick it in the tank in front of Frank's little cave, being careful not to get your fingers too close to him, and he'd crawl out and he'd see it, pow, 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 pow. Well, one night we were over at Elliot's house. There was a new girl on the team that wanted to try feeding Frank. So she got the tongs and put her hand in the aquarium. But while she was attempting to feed him, a charm from her charm bracelet that she was wearing fell off, and it landed in the gravel at the bottom of the tank. She tried to pick up the charm with the tongs, but wasn't having any luck. So we told her to abandon it until we could find another plan. And at this point in the story, her idiot boyfriend walks in. I think he had consumed a few too many l'chaims, if you know what I mean. He wandered over to where she was. She was standing next to the aquarium, and what happened next happened really quickly. She must have told him she dropped a charm in the tank, because without thinking, he stuck in his hand to heroically retrieve it for her, and before anyone could warn him, we all heard a blood-curdling scream. Soon enough, he pulled his hand out of the tank, convulsing in pain, and I just remember him shouting, "I didn't know! I didn't know!" Shrimp happens. Thank you. If we take a pause from my story and look at our Torah portion for the week, Parshat Vayetse, we see a similar theme. I want to read for you a verse from Genesis chapter 28, verse 11. It says, Jacob left Beersheba, set out for Haran, and he came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Now, if we look at the Hebrew for the verse, the first word we get is vayifga, he came upon. And this word is really like an event in the Hebrew language. A pagua, if you're in Israel and hear that word, that's the word they'll describe for an explosion. So the word vayifga really can be translated as he was punched, pow. The second word, bamakom, this means a place or in a place. It changes meaning in the medieval period, and for the sages, they actually used the word makom as a word to describe God. So really, vayifga bamakom can be translated as God punched him, pow. But what happens after this verse in the Torah, I think, is even more interesting. We're told that Jacob falls asleep in this new place, and he has a dream. And in the dream, we're told that he sees a stairway to heaven. Jacob listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin, apparently. And on this stairway or on this ladder, he sees angels going up and down it. And then God appears to Jacob in the dream and promises him the land he's sleeping on to him and his descendants. And then Jacob wakes up from the dream and is absolutely terrified. He then makes a statement. He says, "Surely God was in this place, and I didn't know it." Lo yadati, I didn't know. Only after Jacob is made aware of the holiness of that place does he take a stone that he was using as a pillow and he pours oil on top of it to consecrate it, and he names the place Bethel, house of God. I think about that line a lot. Lo yadati, I didn't know. I didn't know. One could think about this lo yadati in two different ways. The first of which is you didn't know. The Torah literally told us that God punched you in the face. It says when you arrived at the place, vayifga bamakom, God punched you. God gave you a sign, a pretty clear indication that you are about to be changed, Jacob. You will no longer be the Jacob that hangs out in mama's tent all day playing Scrabble. No, you are about to be transformed into a patriarch of the Jewish people. God is taking you and God is shaking you. Wake up. Do you know people that are so completely oblivious that they could get punched in the face and not even know it? I feel like there are those that just walk through life completely unaware of the holiness that surrounds them. And love and blessings could just punch them right in the face, and they would still say, Lo yadati, I didn't know. I think the second thing that can be learned from this is that there is power in things we don't expect. Jacob settles in what he thinks is a seemingly random place, but it turns out to be the land that him and his descendants will inherit. It's a powerful piece of land, but he overlooks it. He thinks nothing of it. Likewise, the mantis shrimp that I spoke about earlier. is incredibly powerful, but most other life forms don't pay it any attention because it is so small, so minute, so unnoticeable. But when you interact with the mantis shrimp, vayifga b'makom, it will punch you right where it hurts. Friends, I want to encourage us this morning. If God is giving you a sign, if God is punching you in the face, then it's up to you to see the holiness that surrounds you and heed the call. It's not good enough to throw your hands in the air and say, Lo yadati, I didn't know. Because more often than not, the signs were there all along. And finally, never underestimate the power of the everyday unknown. Sometimes the most harmful things aren't the big, overwhelming, scary ones. They are the small, inconspicuous, tiny ones. If you can learn to see the power in both, then you too will find your holy place. All right, back to my fish tank story. Frank the mantis shrimp turned this guy's finger into a solid black and blue bruised up mess, and I had to drive him to an urgent care around the corner while he was still hollering. And we got into the waiting room, and the nurse said, "What happened to you?" And he said, "A shrimp." She looked confused. "A shrimp punched me," he said. More confusion. She finally laughed. She said, "I didn't know a shrimp could punch." He angrily said, "Well, now you do." And now, Agudas Achim, all of you do as well. Stay away from the mantis shrimp. Shabbat Shalom.